Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, obviously, most recently, I've talked about the Joker teaser trailer that dropped. And obviously, from what I've kind of seen across the internet, it seems like it's a pretty positive reception to it. And so the whole thing has kind of got me thinking, because obviously DC has lined it up where it's like, oh, their plans are to have like villain movies. And I think that's such an interesting thing. And it's so interesting because like, obviously they're movies with villains kind of as the main stars. Obviously that's something that hasn't really been tackled at all. Even looking at the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that hasn't been tackled at all. You can make the argument with Infinity War and potentially Endgame, because at least Infinity War is, I'm assuming Endgame might be the same way as well, those being like Thanos' story. But even then, it's still a superhero movie, but you also get a big look at the villain's, you know, perspective and understanding of who he is. But even then, it's just that, like, you never really get the full on, this is from the villain's perspective. Like, I feel like they're trying to aim for that in the DC movies, at least in some of them. And I think that's going to be so interesting, especially if they take an approach like Joker, which I wouldn't, that's the thing. Because the thing is, like, Joker seems like it's just going to be a straight up, like, villain movie in a sense. If you see this guy go from point A to point B to become what is literally Batman's greatest foe. And it doesn't seem like, you know, maybe they try to humanize him, sure, but it's just going to be a straight up villain movie. Whereas every other movie they potentially have coming out, obviously, like the Suicide Squad, which is, you know, Suicide Squad 2. This new title is just The Suicide Squad, because apparently it's going to be kind of like a soft reboot, or maybe an outright hard reboot. I have no idea. That comes down to how that really plays out with James Gunn and his direction with it and everything. Then there's the Gotham Sirens. I guess I really wouldn't know what to expect for that. I mean, it is like a group of villains. It's Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, and Catwoman. It's like, well, I'm sure it's going to be them thieving and like getting into shenanigans and stuff like that. But beyond that, like, I don't really know what I would expect from that. Even the whole Birds of Prey movie, I mean, to be fair, that situation's a little different because like it's two villains, potential villains, and two heroes, because it's Huntress, which I don't really know that much about, Harley Quinn, Cassandra Cain, who, interesting enough, I was like, who is Cassandra Cain? Looked into it, she's Batgirl, which I didn't know that. Like, because I know there's multiple Robins, I didn't know there were multiple Batgirls, because the only Batgirl I've ever known in my life has been Barbara Gordon, so it was kind of interesting to find out about that. But other than that, it's also Black Canary. So to me, that's a little different too, because it's like an unlikely alliance of like bad guys and good guys. So I don't know what to really, like, that's kind of like a Suicide Squad situation of like bad guys doing good things essentially, you know? So I don't count, like, they're villain movies because they're villains playing these roles. Like, you getting their perspective. Villains are being put, but they're being put in hero roles. Whereas I feel like with the Joker movie, it's like, it's straight up like, no, he's just, this is his story of becoming a villain, you know? And I feel like that's never really been done too much. Trying to think of that would kind of like, oh, this is like a villain movie to a certain extent. It's Megamind, but even that doesn't count, because in the end, he go from being a super villain to a superhero by the end of the movie. So it's like, that's kind of a different example to use. But even a Black Adam movie, I wouldn't know what to expect from that either, because like, you know, it's like, so is that going to be a situation of like, are they going to do a thing of like they did with Suicide Squad, make it so that these bad guys who are good guys are facing a worse threat? Or are you going to make them face superheroes? It's just going to be kind of like the reverse of a superhero movie, where it's like, oh, which I guess Megamind was. So it's like, is that what they're going to kind of aim for? It's like, oh, these are villains and we get to see their diabolical aspects and just kind of get their perspective in the story, and then, you know, see, you know, I'm curious to see if that's what they do or not. Like, make it so they're going up against heroes, or is it just going to be another bad guy that they're clashing with? I don't know. Like in the Joker movie, like, that's something I'm probably going to talk about in a different video, but it's like, who's the villain of that movie? Especially because it's about his birth, so will there even be an antagonist? Someone for him to really kind of go against? I guess maybe the argument could be Gotham is his antagonist. Like I said, that's a conversation I'll save for another video, but it's such an interesting thing to me. Amongst the superhero genre, at least movie-wise, it's an untapped area, you know? It's still something like, obviously DC's trying to figure that out. Like I said, Marvel hasn't really tackled that too much, like I said, with the exception of Thanos, but even then, it's like a full-on villain movie hasn't really been done yet. So I think that's what Joker's going to be, like that tipping point to kind of be like, okay, so do you handle things more like that? Do you just make straight up villain movies, or do you do the whole thing of like, you know, bad guys being good guys? Like, if you've ever seen the TV show Leverage, like that's a great example of like what I'm talking about, of like, oh, they're these bad people who have these sets of skills of being thieves, hackers, grifters, yada yada yada, but they end up using their bad skills for good. You know, literally the whole Suicide Squad situation. So it's like, that's why I feel like the rest of the other movies might be, exception of Black Adam. I would, like I said, I don't know what to expect from that. Would they go down more of a Joker route? Probably not like the more serious aspect to, maybe they would, but like I said, it's just interesting thinking like of a straight up villain movie. And that's why, like I keep saying, makes the Joker movie so interesting, because that's what that is, at least in my mind. I don't see them, like I said, they're trying to humanize him, but it doesn't seem like they're trying to make it, it's like, oh, by the end he becomes this hero. It's like, no, we know where his path is going to ultimately take him, you know? Ultimately, my question to you guys is, how do you feel about all this going forward? Like, the fact is that DC is doing villain movies. Like, obviously that's been something that's been in the works for a while, and obviously like I said, even Marvel hasn't really tackled that yet. So like, especially with the way you know, the teaser to the Joker movie has, you know, made people feel, like, has that changed your mind or in any shape or form? Because I know like the whole aspect of like, oh man, a movie about villains would be cool. Like, I know that kind of got soured for a lot of people because of Suicide Squad, which once again, I like Suicide Squad, but I know I'm super in a minority in that situation. So does it make you reluctant about these other movies going forward? Because like I said, I feel like they would all potentially have a Suicide Squad type of feel to them, and the fact is they're bad guys doing good. Whereas like I said, the Joker movie's just straight up, hey, he's a bad guy doing bad things, you know? Would you want some of the movies like that? Would you want some of the movies like a Suicide Squad? I'd love to know your opinions about this all going forward. Are you even interested in villain movies at all? Are you just like, nah, give me my superhero movies. I don't care too much about villains and stuff like that. I just want to see the superheroes I like brought to the table. I could care less about the villains. Let me know in the comments down below, because that's such an interesting thing. Because obviously for a lot of people, it's like, that could be something that DC might have over Marvel, because for a lot of people, Marvel hasn't had the strongest villains, with the exception of Killmonger and Thanos being the best in a lot of people's opinion. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about in this video. Till the next time, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good